Viet Tan Nguyen's I'd Love You to Want Me is a short story about a professor and his wife, but the professor has been losing his memory due to Alzheimer's. Because of that, he starts to call his wife by the name Yen. The wife must navigate the new identity of being someone she is not. Viet Tan Nguyen uses a motif in a painting to convey a deeper meaning of love and self-identity loss by showing the battles a couple and her husband diagnosed with Alzheimer's deal with. Yen is more than just another woman's name. It is also a call for the wife to find herself. A turning point in the short story is when Mr. Kampf starts calling his wife Yen. The origin of the name is unknown, but it is hurtful to a wife who does not go by that name. As the husband continues to call his wife Yen, the motif is repeated throughout the short story. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, Yen means a strong desire or prosperity. As the husband continues to call his wife by the wrong identity, it symbolizes a desire for her to find herself, since she lost herself while constantly taking care of her husband. When talking about Mr. Kampf's mind slipping due to Alzheimer's, Wynne writes, "What's on television tonight, Yen?" as he called her by the other woman's name again and again over the following weeks. This is just one of the many examples of the husband making a mistake with his wife's name. As the mistakes become repetitive, the wife began to feel irritated, as if she were being replaced by another woman. When the husband's mind slips, he writes in his notebook to keep from making the same mistake. One day, Mr. and Mrs. Kampf bicker about what her name is. He writes in his notebook about his wife, saying, "Must keep a closer eye on her." Here she licked her finger and used it to turn the page, for she might not know who she is anymore. His inscription in the notebook is not referring to the disagreement over the name Yen, but really over the wife losing herself while trying to take care of someone else. Because of his condition, the wife had to stop her favorite hobbies and jobs to take care of her husband. In turn, this has caused the wife to lose herself and forget the things that once brought her joy, causing her to not know who she is anymore and what makes her happy. As the days of spring lengthened into summer, she answered the phone less and less, eventually turning off the ringer so the professor wouldn't answer the calls either. In fear that her kids will ask for her in front of her husband or her husband will refer to her by Yen in front of the kids, she begins to talk less with her family. This isolation is to keep her two lives from blending, but it is really making her lose connection to her actual life. Wynne focuses on a painting in the story, acting as a resemblance to Mrs. Kampf. It shows how Alzheimer's leads the wife through battles of defeat and hard work, but because of love, they navigate his Alzheimer's condition together. In the story, Mrs. Kampf received a painting as a gift. Her first thoughts when receiving the painting are that she thought the woman in the painting looked like a child's paper doll cut out and pasted to a three-dimensional chair. A paper doll can be customized and costumed to fit the child's storytelling, allowing them to play the role they want the doll to portray. Mrs. Kampf is like this doll, losing her interests and passions to be the Yen that her husband wants. Mrs. Kampf can also relate her fear of being trapped in her own body to being trapped inside a painting, unable to move like the doll is from the chair. Later in the story, Wynne describes the wife sitting next to the painting, feeling as though it is noticing her. When she opened the book, she could feel the woman looking over her shoulder at her name, written in his precise hand under that of the author. Wynne gives personification to this painting to give it the characteristics of a woman, that of Mrs. Kampf. While the painting cannot have the same characteristics as Mrs. Kampf, it symbolizes her fear of losing her self-identity. It could also symbolize Mrs. Kampf looking in a mirror and not even recognizing herself anymore, thinking it is a painting as she is so unrecognizable. After taking a look at the hung-up painting, Mrs. Kampf decides she promised herself tomorrow that she would have the painting reframed. This decision to keep the painting, rather than destroy it or discard it, since it exhibits eerie characteristics of staring at the wife, reveals her connection to the painting. Since she doesn't get rid of the painting, it shows how she is trying to cope with two identities now, her original identity and the one of Yen. She decides to cope rather than give up on her relationship because she still loves the professor she knows and originally married, even throughout his battle with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a prevalent problem nowadays, not just for the person diagnosed, but also for their families. Wynne brings in this concept of Alzheimer's throughout the story to show the hardship that couples and families must face after their loved ones are diagnosed. For example, when Mr. Kampf's Alzheimer's is progressing rapidly, Mrs. Kampf has a farewell party at work. She fought to control the sense that ever so slowly the book of her life was being closed. To be able to take care of Mr. Kampf, Mrs. Kampf must give up the job she loves, being a librarian, to keep him on track. This depiction of identity loss Mrs. Comp goes through is just one example of the struggle and sacrifice that families must go through after the diagnosis. Rather than just sending out a message with facts and statistics, the reader can relate to how everyday habits and lives are flipped upside down. Incorporating the painting and another character named Yan, the author portrays the internal and external battles between Mrs. Comp herself and her husband. Viet Thanh Nguyen uses a motif in a painting to convey a deeper meaning of love and self-identity loss by showing the battles a couple and her husband, diagnosed with Alzheimer's, deal with. The battles Mrs. Comp faces are just one of many that others also face with loved ones who battle Alzheimer's. But because of their lasting love, Mrs. Comp continues her relationship and takes care of her husband, even if it causes her to lose herself in the process, because she knows the person she originally fell in love with.